Welcome to the RotoWire Divisional Round NFL Playoff Preview. I am Jim Coventry, excited for another week of football. Look, we just had a great wild card weekend, other than the night games, really. And handicapping these games, and mostly went well. I was wrong on the Chargers game. I did not know Marion Hampton was good for one play and it was over. He was a critical part of my game analysis. They needed that balance on run and pass. And with Kamani Vidal, I'm sorry, whenever he played a good defense, he had little chance. He was great against garbage defenses. But without Hampton, I did not see it coming. So I apologize to those that backed the Chargers in that one. Otherwise, the only other one we got wrong was that Bears-Packers game, which was a real toss-up. And the Bears, give them credit for winning it, but the Packers, I just don't understand why Matt LaFleur decided to run the ball into a brick wall in the second half and stop taking the passing advantages that he had. Is what it is, I guess. But again, props to the Bears. They won. They did what needed to be done. But the Packers played. They had a 40-3 lead, not a 21-3 lead at the half. And then they finally got out of the funk late, but it was too late. So good job, Bears. But very nice. And those are the two we got wrong. 49ers, we called that one pretty easily. The Eagles were never going to show up offensively. We talked about it all season. If you followed me, and I love the Eagles, love all the teams, but I really love the Eagles. Last year, it really, helped me fantasy-wise and just enjoyed watching them. But Kevin Patullo was over his skis. I knew it in the preseason. I knew it during the regular season. Anybody that expected that to change, you were wish casting, and that's really all it was. They still could have won the game, but that said, the coaching on the other side of the ball for the 49ers, way, way better. And coaching won that game. No question there. Otherwise, we knew the Bills would win. And, like I said, the laziest analysis you'll ever hear me do. There was no way Trevor Lawrence was beating Josh Allen. It was just that simple. Trevor Lawrence is not beating him. And I said that Sean McDermott would dial up a couple confusing looks and there'd be one or two big mistakes by Lawrence, and he made two. And it cost him for sure. But at the end of the day, you know how these playoff games go? I mean, any team can win any game. There's no question there. The Jaguars were a better team. But Josh Allen, there you go. Real simple. He doesn't have to battle Mahomes. He doesn't have to deal Lamar. So there's that. But great playoff round. Now we're on to the second round. So here we go here. Buffalo Bills at the Denver Broncos. The early line on this is Denver favored 1.5. I wonder if, like last week, the other way, it's going to swing the Bills 1.5 before the game starts. I have to think there's going to be betting money coming in the other side. Last week, if you remember, the Bills were a 1.5 point favorite over the Jaguars, and the Jaguars at the end of the week were the 1.5 point favorites. The market loved them some Jacksonville Jaguars. Over and under is 46.5. This is the early Saturday game, 4:30 Eastern. Now, if you have Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, channel 87, really till a half an hour of kickoff, I'll take you up to there with Mario Puig on Sirius XM. We'll be on from 2 to 4 Eastern. The game kickoff at 4:30. So we're your official pregame show. And Mario and I will give deep dives on each side of the ball. You'll enjoy that, I think. Weather forecast as of Tuesday night, 38 degrees, 7-mile an hour winds, no precipitation. So weather is not expected to be a factor in this game. So realistically, here's the deal. We'll start with the Buffalo side. And we learn that styles make fights. And I had people flaming me last week because I said that the Jaguars were not going to be able to dominate the ground on Buffalo. And some will say, well, the numbers look good. Yeah, I don't care about the numbers. It's what you do with the rushing attack. Jacksonville never had a sustained rushing attack all year. So I pointed out that that's not their identity. They're going to be balanced. And they could have ran all day and they would have won, but they were never going to do that. Well, this game, we look at the other side. Denver, on paper, great run defense. But what's their fatal flaw? They can't handle power running. They're small. They're a smaller defensive front. If you go in with a big offensive line like the Bills have, and you put in either a 6 lineman or extra tight ends, the Bills will bully you. And if you don't have a big, stout front to deal with them, it's going to be a problem. So James Cook struggled last week. They didn't pop him to the outside enough, but it was a great run defense. But they were able to deal with what the Bills brought. Again, I thought they'd get more outside runs and they didn't. That I can't control that. But I do know this. Whether Cook runs inside or out this week, with the power running game they're going to use, the Bills, this is a great, great setup for a massive James Cook game. And here's the thing. It's not like Denver could say, all right, we know what you're doing. We're just going to load some extra bodies up. They got Josh Allen. And I don't care who the receivers are. You already seen it. It doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. The receivers might stink, but Josh Allen completed 80% of his passes against Jacksonville. 80%. And he ran for 33 yards and 2 touchdowns. So eventually you figure out you can't overload the front because of Josh Allen. You just can't do it. You cannot take that chance. You blow a coverage, and I know they got really great corners. I get it, but you can't do it because Josh Allen will extend the play beyond the point that a corner can cover. So that's it. It's a James Cook day, and that's going to be the engine of the offense in this game. The Denver side, this is a tough one. RJ Harvey for fantasy was really, really good in the last 3 or 4 weeks. But you saw that when he had a tougher defensive matchup as a runner, and Sean Payton didn't want to use him as a grinder back anyway. You knew that early in the season. They got J.K. Dobbins for that, who obviously is still injured. And so I think in this game, I don't think RJ Harvey can take advantage of the weaknesses of the Buffalo run defense. I just don't think that's the case here. Ed Oliver is practicing the defensive tackle. I don't know if he gets activated, but if he does, that's even a worse mark against Denver. But I just don't see this one as the type of game where Harvey is going to be that guy that runs consistently and moves chains. That's not going to happen most likely. So it'll come down to the passing game. And I know, again, Denver on paper has a good offensive line, but the Bills pass rush, I think, has the advantage here. And if you get Bo Nix in obvious passing situations, we have seen it. Bo Nix, when he's under pressure, and all quarterbacks are worse under pressure, we know that. But Bo Nix has a problem here because I talk about his mechanics all the time. His feet rarely get set, so he doesn't know where the ball is going. You see balls sail on him. You see some balls come through. It's because his feet are rarely set. And when pressure comes, that gets worse. Now, I don't know if the Bills will match up their corners. I don't know if they'll do that. A lot of teams don't. They'll play sides. But if they were going to, Cortland Sutton would see a lot of Christian Benford in this one. I do think that we could get some goodness out of Pat Bryant. Bryant was coming on usage-wise. His snaps were well above Troy Franklin's. The targets were on and off, but they were getting there. And you could tell they had a plan for Pat Bryant to get him in the middle of the field and use him. And I do think that now that he's recovered, I think he had a concussion down the stretch, but I think that we'll get Pat Bryant involved. He could have a nice little game here. But otherwise, it's not like the Denver offense, and this, is not one that anybody fears. And I do think that just like last week, I think that Sean McDermott can give a couple of confusing looks to Bo Nix that will cause him to throw an interception at the wrong time. And so I do think coaching matters, defensive coaching. Now, don't get me started on Sean McDermott's overall coaching because they botched the clock at the end of that game and they should have lost because of it and they got away with it. But defensively, McDermott will have answers here. So I do think in this game, I have the Broncos falling this one. They're their home team. They're the 1 seed. I get it. But I just don't see, again, Bo Nix is capable of winning any game, just like any team is. But I don't think he's beating Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is in James Cook. They're enough here. 26-20. I've got this one. So I'm definitely taking the points. I'm betting this early while I'm getting points because I do think that line is a good chance of flipping. If you're going for some player props, love James Cook over 75.5 rushing yards. These numbers are as of Wednesday morning. Cook for an anytime touchdown. This is the week he gets back in the end zone. Bills team total over 23.5. I do like RJ Harvey over 2.5 receptions, but it's juiced up pretty high. So I almost would be willing to trade off the juice for going up to over 3.5 receptions. A little greedy, but I do think they're going to trail, and I think they're going to need him. And then Bo Nix over 23 rushing yards. I do think the Bills have a lead in the second half. I think Nix, when he's under pressure, is going to run more than he has been. So I like that. If you're playing some DraftKings, kind of the same deal. Nix on the 8-team slate is probably a 5,800. He's the value guy that I think with the running could be helping your fantasy squad on DFS and DraftKings because I do think he'll be able to smash that amount. Otherwise, even with James Cook having a big game, you can't go wrong if you have the money to spend up on Josh Allen. He always can be the highest scoring quarterback on the slate without even having a great game. Obviously, James Cook, now he's the one. Even though he's 7,300, he's the running back on the slate that he's kind of my must-have because I do see a monster game coming here. If you want to go cheap, Pat Bryant, 3,900. I mentioned earlier in my analysis, I do think he could be involved, and he's a cheap outlet for salary. And then I do think if you don't want to spend up on the Houston Texans defense, the Bills defense at 2,600, if they're playing with a lead, you can get sacks and takeaways in the second half. That would be your bargain basement defense. All right, we go next. San Francisco 49ers at Seattle Seahawks. Saturday night game, 8 p.m. Eastern. Weather should not be an issue here. We're expecting 43 degrees, 2-mile-an-hour winds. So basically, you're breathing, right? And then no precipitation. Seahawks 7.5-point favorites. 44.5 is the total on this one. So we've seen these teams meet recently in Week 18, and they were playing for the 1 seed. They were playing in San Francisco. There is no reason the 49ers would not have brought their A game. There's no reason Seattle wouldn't have brought their A game. It was 13-3. It wasn't that close. The 49ers defense, they bent, but rarely broke. It was pretty cool. They're so well coached. But again, they keep losing players to injury. I think Tatum Bethune, the middle linebacker, may have played that game. He's back on IR. They brought Eric Kendricks in. Oh my gosh. But he did well. But again, these poor 49ers, they just are down too many bodies. Fred Warner is going to practice, but he can't play unless they win this game. So unfortunately, that's not going to happen. In that last meeting in Week 18, I think Seattle gets it. I think they know that Sam Darnold, unless they have to, they're not putting the offense on his shoulders. And in that game against the 49ers, they were smart. Between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, they lit him up on the ground. They lit him up as receivers. They were loading the stat sheet. The 49ers really can't do much to stop it. They can't do any more than they did in that game. So it's very difficult to think that even playing at home, Charles Cross, the left tackle, looks like he's going to practice. He was a full participant in Tuesday's practice. So it looks like they were without him in that game. That's a huge addition for them, going from a backup to Charles Cross. So I do think they're going to continue to slice and dice on the ground. And so Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, I think they're just going to be the engine of the offense. Like you've seen, Jackson Smith-Njigba hasn't had the blow-up games recently as much as he had, but that's because they're playing a little more conservative. He'll still get you his 80, 90 yards. He could get more. And if the 49ers somehow come out and say, look, our season's over, we're just going to put 8, 9 in the box, and we're going to take our chances with Darnold, then Smith-Njigba is your pivot. That's kind of, and it's almost a contrarian play in a way, because I think everybody kind of knows Seattle had that success on the ground. So I think it continues, but there is a world where the 49ers just put so many bodies there, and then Darnold has very easy coverage on Smith-Njigba and ends up going off. That's a contrarian take, but it's certainly in the realm, because again, this hyper-focused playoff game planning, if a team's season on the line, desperate times, desperate measures, right? So, but that's it. I love the running backs. Those are the ones I do think that the 49ers are not going to be able to do more than they did. And so I'm just going to kind of go that route. The other side of the ball, I mean, George Kittle's out with the Achilles, terrible injury. And it really hurts because the 49ers did very little. They had 3 points against Seattle, again, in San Francisco in Week 18. Christian McCaffrey got very little done as a runner and a receiver. Even Kittle in that game, it was like 5 catches, like 27 or 29 yards. There was one play they left him alone. He got 20, but everything else catch and fall. They were all over him. So they gave up nothing to the tight end in that game at all. So that's the problem. If Kittle can only go 529, somebody is mentioning Jake Tongs a sleeper. Well, if George Kittle went 5 for 29, what am I expecting out of Jake Tongs? And that's okay. Even if you match Kittle, 7 points, they're so fast. They're so fast in the front seven. And the thing is, I don't think they have to worry about the 49ers like unlocking a downfield passing attack. So I think that they're going to be able to put a lot of pressure up front, and they're going to force Purdy to get it out quick. 49ers, what's their escape? Here's their escape. And it probably won't work. I love the 49ers. You got to get Christian McCaffrey lined up as a receiver, line up in the slot, line him up outside, get him out of the backfield. He's probably not going to run for many yards in this game. We saw it in the last meeting. We've seen it throughout the season. He's had good rushing games, but his rushing efficiency isn't what it was. They just have to make him the biggest wild card weapon as a receiver as they possibly can. They need to have him out there every snap. They need to use him in every kind of funky way possible. and they just need to see what they can do with that. They really could use Ricky Pearsall on the field. Now, whether he practices or plays, hard to know. As of the estimated practice report, they said limited, but yeah, good luck with that. We'll see it when we see him. But if they get Pearsall out there, they would have the ability to win underneath between Jennings and Pearsall. It would help them to have a second out there. But if they really don't have Pearsall, it really becomes catastrophic because Kittle is away. He's one of their field stretchers as a tight end. They often can use him vertical out of the tight end slot when they need that. They didn't do that against Seattle in the first meeting. But all that said, I think the injuries are finally going to catch up to the 49ers here. There's a big spot on the road. They did great against the Eagles, but that counted on the Eagles being a dysfunctional offense. And I think the magic runs out. So I'm going to go Seahawks 23, 49ers 13. I'll lay the 7.5. I do think under 44.5 is a really good bet here. I have it going 36 points, and I think this line moves down actually as time goes. Player props, I do think you bet McCaffrey at 7+ receptions. I think he gets that here. I think they have no other option. Kenneth Walker's rushing prop is 56 yards. Again, I don't think the world of him, but in this matchup, I don't see how he doesn't get 80. Zach Charbonnet over 47 rush yards. He topped that in the first meeting. But again, if they play with the lead, he's going to be heavily involved in the second half. And then the 49ers team total under 17.5 points. I think that is a great bet. It's going to be very difficult for the 49ers to put up 18 points in this game. So I definitely love that one. And that might be the best of all of them. But those Seattle rush props are good. And then with the DFS, you go one way or the other. I think you go to either of the Seattle running backs. You might go with both, depending, what you're thinking. But you could go with Walker and Sharp. They both could cash here. They did in that first game. Combined, the yardage was insane. Charbonnet scored a touchdown, of course, but Walker had more yardage. There's a world where that works. Now, if you want the contrarian take, if you think there's a world where the 49ers say, you know what, we're just selling out against the run, we're going to make Darnold beat us, then obviously Smith and Jigba, who's a superstar as it is, he would go nuclear in this game. You can see if they load up to stop Walker and Charbonnet, Smith and Jigba can get 180 and 2 touchdowns. So that's on the table. So it depends how you frame it out. I don't think the 49ers can sell out that level to stop the run. So I don't think that happens, but that's definitely in the realm of possibility. All right, next, Houston Texans, New England Patriots at New England. Of course, the number 2 seed in the AFC. Patriots are a 3-point favorite. The over and under is 40.5. That's the early Sunday game, 3 Eastern. Now, again, if you have Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, Alan Soslowski and myself will be on from 1 to 3 Eastern, I believe that. Yeah, we should be on right until game time that day. So we'll be right at the 2 hours before game time. We'll be right on there so you can catch a little pregame action there. Weather forecast as of Tuesday night, 32 degrees, 26% chance of snow, 7 mile per hour winds. Keep an eye on that one. The weather is not a catastrophic issue. The wind isn't much. It'll be a bit cold. Texans are physical type team. They're not a finesse team, so I don't know that really bothers them much here. Of course, the big question is Nico Collins, who suffered a concussion Monday night. And then it's one day less. They played at night. Him to get cleared, and it looked like he was really scuffling on the field with that concussion. So hope the best to Nico Collins. Of course, most important is health. Secondary, we'll see if we get him on the field. Now, Christian Gonzalez, the top cornerback of the Patriots, he also is in concussion protocol after New England's Sunday night game. If I didn't say Nico Collins was Monday night, that's what I meant to say. But yeah, so Christian Gonzalez is in concussion protocol. We'll see if he is able to suit up. But if they both missed, that would kind of be a little bit of a trade-off. So we'll see how that sets up. Now, Houston, Woody Marks played a great game against the Steelers. Now, the Steelers, it basically was, there were games like against the Ravens where they knew they had to stop the run and they used 5-man defensive fronts and it was pretty successful. But otherwise, that's not their DNA on defense. So it's not what they're going to do. They're going to play it fair. No, I'm sorry. So we're going to see New England in this case, the defense of New England. Let's start there. The New England defense, they're a very good run defense. And Woody Marks took advantage of Pittsburgh, like I said. This is a tough interior run defense. Spillane and the linebackers are very good downhill. They're not good to the perimeter so much. And they're going to be very Woody Marks, those runs he was getting inside. I don't think those are here against New England. We're not going to see that. Now, a micro advantage. Remember, I said those linebackers are very good downhill. They're not very good in coverage against running backs. If Houston studies the film and they seek that out, using Woody Marks as a receiver. Remember, he was a college receiver at some point. You could get him out on some patterns out of the backfield, some screen passes. He has an advantage there if Houston is able to figure out to use that. In terms of defense, again, a lot of it really depends what we're going to, if Christian Gonzalez plays or not. You got Carlton Davis on the other corner, a couple of physical corners, and the place you want to attack New England, though, is in the slot. And I know this sounds like low-hanging fruit. Christian Kirk, look, he's been a good player for years, and obviously injuries and whatever have caused him to not do well, but he went off against Pittsburgh. And I've said all along against New England, you do want to attack them in the slot. And Christian Kirk is a remarkable receiver. And we saw him using that capacity. And if Collins is out, they'll just go with Xavier Hutchinson and Jaden Higgins on the outside. So Kirk retains his role. I do think they can leverage him in this game. And he's not going to get that 144 yards or whatever it was in the last game. But Christian Kirk should be a real weapon here. That having that game of confidence with CJ Stroud certainly helped. The pass rush is not going to be what Stroud saw against Pittsburgh. That's a scary pass rush. Look, I mean, you got Watt, you got Hayward, you got Herbig. They have one heck of a pass rush. And so this is not the same. The Pittsburgh pass rush, I would grade it about even, about middling. There's nothing scary about it. And actually, the Texans tackles can hold up. They can hold up against them. I don't think there's an issue here. So I think Stroud has a little time. Now, again, if Christian Gonzalez plays, the outsides are going to be tough. That's going to be a net advantage to the Patriots. Dalton Schultz is probably going to be a chain mover. I'm not expecting Nico Collins to play. As I'm giving you this breakdown, he looked really in trouble. And it was, again, Monday night game. It's a super short turnaround to get cleared from concussion protocol. So I just think in this game, Stroud is going to have a little more ability to create, to extend some plays. I think that is in play here. Now, Patriots have a good defense, and it's not like we're going to see Houston move the ball up and down on them. That's not going to happen. But they're going to have spots. They're going to have moments. They're going to have a couple of drives where they get rolling. They can cobble together some offense. This isn't a 30-point game. This is somewhere where you're hoping to get them in the 17 to 23 range. That's what they're hoping. And I think they can get there. Again, if they focus on throwing the ball to Marks a little bit on the backfield, using Kirk, using Schultz. And Stroud didn't run the last game. He really was under a lot of pressure, and I don't know what he was thinking. His last year in the playoffs, remember, he had 42 rushing yards in each game. I think this type of game, if pressure starts to come, I think he is able to make some plays with his legs if he needs to, especially there might be more urgency if Nico Collins is out. Now, the other side, this is a terrible matchup, obviously, for any offense. And what New England likes to do is they like Drake May to get those deep passes. But against those corners of Houston, that's not going to be easy because I love Kayshon Boutte. And I know Lassiter's not fast, but Bootie's not like this earth-shattering like 4.3 guy anyway. So I think even if Lassiter's on him, I think it's a wash at best. And, Mac Hollins is on IR, and I would think whatever he will. He was a big part of their offense. Kyle Williams, I think, would be in trouble against either Stingley or Lassiter. And Stephon Diggs, and look, Jalen Petrie, he's playing well right now. So whether they move Diggs around, this is not a plus matchup for Diggs either. Can Diggs win? Yes. Diggs is still a very good route runner. If they lean on him, he certainly is capable of producing at a high level. But I think at the end of the day, I think this is not a good option for them. And then the problem becomes, if you get an obvious passing downs, Will Campbell's a nice left tackle as a rookie, but I don't think he's at the level of Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. And that pass rush is lethal, especially in an obvious passing situation. Now, Drake May, very good at making plays, running, break and contain. You saw a big, 37-yard run against Los Angeles last week. But I think this is a much faster defense. Is May going to make some plays with his legs? Yes, he'll make some plays. But I don't think he's going to dominate plays with his legs because I think the Houston defense is fast enough to get to him. Now, the running game. This is overall the Houston defense very good against interior runs. Ramondre Stevenson has been running at an incredible level lately. As a runner and a receiver, Stevenson has been amazing for about a month and a half. This is not a great matchup. He'll get a few plays. He definitely will get a few plays. I don't think it's a sustaining rushing attack. Travion Henderson didn't look great last week. I think there's a chance for either of these runners to get something to the outside. But I don't think, again, there's going to be a lot of success there. This is an elite Houston defense, and you know that already. I just don't see them having the tools to move. Now, what's their way out? Drake May has that game. Drake May has the game that the superstar quarterbacks have, and it overcomes the defense. And that's in play. It's possible. But I think the Houston defense is going to be able to take away a lot of his weapons. And I think it's not close with his weapons. So the big advantage does go to Houston. And look, until they broke that game open late, New England against Los Angeles, they really weren't tearing up that defense. This is 3 steps up. This is 3 steps up because that's how good Houston is. So I do think this is going to be a great game. I think, again, both teams are not going to have sustained success moving the ball. I have the Texans winning this. I have the Texans 19-16. It can go either way. It can go either way. I love taking the 3 points here. Player props, Patriots team total under 22.5. Drake May under 224.5 passing yards. They don't have props out yet as of Wednesday morning on the receivers because of the Nico Collins situation. So I don't have any. I would do whatever Christian Kirk's prop is. I think total catches, I would like that one. Draft marks, draft kings. I said Woody Marks, kind of blended those. Woody Marks, if you are looking to try a contrarian play, but it might not be contrarian because he had a big game last week, and if they use him as a receiver at 5,900 on DraftKings, he could work. But you could find some. I do like the Seattle and the James Cook options better than Woody Marks. Christian Kirk at 4,100, as I told you earlier, I like him there. Dalton Schultz, 4,200 is not a bad play, especially if Collins is out. The reliability and the chain moving, you probably get quite a few catches, a chance for a score. Obviously, the Texans defense, 3,400. As good as Drake May's been, again, I've talked about the Houston defense. They are that level. All right, so let's see here. You know what? I should say that. It's a good question. Field position. Yeah, I expect the Texans to get a couple short fields. I expect the Texans to get enough sustained offense to get in field goal. Fairbairn's a good kicker. He'll miss one on occasion. He can hit a couple 50s in this one. But yeah, I definitely think they can score some points. New England's defense is not overwhelming for them. It's good. It's solid. But Stroud should have the ability to get enough done. Again, game planning can be critical here. I do think they have to include Marks as a receiver out of the backfield. They have to do that. They've got to leverage the middle of the field with Kirk. Those are their advantages. I don't always get it right with how the playoff game coaching goes, but I do frequently get it right because in playoffs, it's like we've got to take our strengths against your weaknesses and we got to hammer it. You think you do it in the regular season, but coaches don't do that. So I do think they have those natural advantages to get those points, but I think field position. I do think the Texans defense gets them, and they may get them a turnover as well. They could get the ball deep in territory at some point. But yeah, not great scoring in this game. I don't have either team getting a 20. It's a low-scoring game. It's still a low-scoring game. All right, so I do like let's go to the next one. Let's just go Rams-Bears. So this is the Sunday evening game, 6:30 Eastern. Rams 3.5-point favorites. Over and under 51.5 on this one. Weather forecast. And this is going to, I live in Chicago. It'll change. I don't know what it'll change. Could get worse. Could get better. It'll change. It won't be the same. But right now, we're looking at 17 degrees with 14-mile-an-hour wind. So that puts your wind chill near 0. 20% chance of light snow. Who knows what you're going to get right off of Lake Michigan. All that said, a lot of people are going to talk about, it's bear weather. I'll point this out. In the last 2 years, the Bears have played one home game under 32 degrees. And it was about a month and a half ago, it's Cleveland. They had an easy cakewalk matchup in that one, sub-zero wind chill, but Cleveland wasn't really a test. So that was it. But the Bears don't have a lot of cold game experience. Other side of the ball, Matthew Stafford played plenty of road games in Chicago, played plenty of road games in Green Bay when he was with the Detroit Lions. Frequently saw those, so he's no stranger to the cold weather. And I imagine when they had those cold weather games in Detroit, they probably had some outdoor practices to acclimate. But Stafford has played plenty of games in cold weather, and they played that game in Philly last year, which was heavy snow, and they scored 22 points, and they really kicked it up late. And of course, Devontae Adams lived his life in Green Bay for much of his career. So again, two of their key players, much more cold game experience than the Bears. I mean, Caleb Williams, California college quarterback, one cold weather game in his life. Running backs, is what it is there. The receivers, other than DJ Moore, not really have that cold game. So I throw it out. There's no bear weather advantage here, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see it. Do not see an advantage there. I don't see it as an advantage for the Rams. But I don't see it as an advantage for the Bears either. All that said. All right, the Bears are going to be down middle linebacker TJ Edwards and their left tackle Ozzie Trapillo. Those are going to hurt. Edwards hasn't been Superman, but you lose your play caller on defense. It's a big deal, especially against Sean McVay's defense. That's a big deal. And losing their left tackle Ozzie Trapillo, again, hasn't been a world beater, but you got to go to a backup, and the Rams have a versatile front four. So they're going to cause a little bit of trouble here. So this ends up working out for the Rams, gives them a little bit of a break. Otherwise, the Bears defense played well against Green Bay. They've had spots where they look really good, but overall, this hasn't been a great run defense. The Rams, you can't go in as a defense saying we're taking away the run, because the minute Matthew Stafford sees that as the line, he's checking out of it. He's checking out of the run call that quick. Okay, fine. You want to put an extra man up? I got Adams, I got Nakua, and you got nobody close. That's simple. And I got three tight ends. They're probably going to run those three tight end sets. They run quite a bit of those. Tyler Higbee in there. You got a little bit of Parkinson in there. Don't know if Ferguson will be back, but they have Davis Allen. They got plenty of guys, plenty of dudes to play a tight end. But what they do is they force the defense to bring an extra body down, and then they have options. But they can run. And right guard Steve Avila missed the last game he was practicing, so it looks like it's he's probably going to be back, and that helps. So the Rams could get it going on the ground. Obviously, you got Nakua and Adams, and Matthew Stafford hasn't been playing great in the last month, but they've kicked it up when they've needed to. So maybe they come in flat. It's possible. But I think they got enough of a scare last week. If there was anything that was like in the back of their mind, I think that's going to be gone. I do think, again, the heavy sets are going to help the Rams. And I think the Bears defense, we saw it with Green Bay. Green Bay, when they decided to be versatile on offense in the first half of that game, Bears couldn't cover any of them. It was just pitch and catch. And it's got to be the same for Nakua and Adams here. It's Stafford's finger. I am assuming it's going to be okay. He looked better in the fourth quarter. The second and late, very end of the half in the third quarter, the finger was a real problem. But he really, really shook off and came up big late in the game. I have to assume with the week of treatment that Stafford will be fine for this one. If he's not fine, then that flips the game, of course. The Bears side had a question about which Bears receiver has the best fantasy day. It's all year. It's been a crapshoot. We've seen DJ Moore put up 3 games with like 22 fantasy points. We saw him with 5 games with 3 or less. It's a crapshoot. Rome Odunze, is he a week healthier? But he was already fading out. He had a great start to the season. Luther Burden had 7 targets last week. Didn't do a whole lot with him. If I'm putting a guess on who does it, I actually wrote him up in one of my columns that I would take a dart throw at Burden for DFS. And I'll talk about that at the end. I got him in my list. But the yards after the catch stuff that gets set up for him, that is in play here. The Rams, if you take their season numbers defensively, they look really good. They're not. Their corners have been exposed. Now, it helped they got Quentin Lake back last week. He was rusty last week, so he had some issues. But Quentin Lake is their slot corner, helps against run support very well. He's a good corner on the slot, but he's not lights out. And against and Forbes, small corner, he could be beaten easily. Darius Williams will have to play this one. Sure, they tried to work back in Witherspoon. He got hurt again, so he's done. So, but those corners, they can be beaten. It's going to be a matter of what pass rush wise the Rams get going. That's going to be important for them. Of the receivers, the one most likely to do well is Burden, and of course Loveland is a tight end. There's nothing scary about the matchup for Loveland. The Bears have been scheming him up very consistently. Different types of routes, not the same thing. They use him in the red zone. It could certainly be a good game for Loveland as well. Bears are going to be able to score some points here. It all comes down to how the run game goes. I don't think the Bears' run game is dominant here. The Rams, for the most part, take care of business inside. If you're running interior on them, they're very solid against that. Now, DeAndre Swift doesn't have great vision, but if they do scheme runs up to the outside and they get it well blocked and they make it defined for him, he can have success. And Swift could have a little bit of success, break a big run or two, which would really help the Bears. Otherwise, I do think the Bears find a way to move the ball. When they get in third and obvious, that's where Williams' ability to break plays, and that's what'll tip the game for the Bears one way or the other. If when Williams is breaking contain, if he's connecting on the big plays, then that's a huge advantage for the Bears. But if we see some of those mistakes that Williams will make, then obviously the game goes from there. When it's all told here, and I should have said for the other games, like if they play 10 times, what happens? I do think that if they play 10 times, the Rams win 6 or 7, the Bears win 3 or 4. This game could go either way. I am going with the Rams. I do think the Rams have a massive advantage offensively against the Bears defense. I think the Bears can't afford to make mistakes. The Rams are battle tested enough, especially Stafford, to know to keep the foot on the pedal, especially after last week's scare. And I think they will keep their foot on the pedal. And I have this as a high-scoring game. I got the Rams 33, the Bears 23. We even saw it when that snow hit hard in Philly last year. In the second half, the Rams were just scoring points when they had to. The weather was like it didn't even exist. And I kind of see that happening here. So I do like the Rams minus 3.5 in this one. But again, if you're backing the Bears, you got a shot here. You got a real shot here. Bears are a good football team. Over 51.5. I like the over in this one. Player props, Matthew Stafford, 2+ touchdown passes. Devontae Adams, anytime TD. I'm a little milder in this one, but Puka Nacua, 8+ receptions. I think that they will just make sure he gets plenty of opportunities. Colston Loveland, over 54 receiving yards. The Rams team total over 27.5. I think that's a good number. DraftKings plays, if you want salary relief, take a shot on Blake Corum, 5,100. The Bears defense will give up big plays, and Blake Corum, as the change-up runner, definitely has shown the ability to do that. That's a salary relief and a differentiation play. Devontae Adams at 6,500, very accustomed to those winter games. No Chicago cornerback can hang with him. He could score multiple touchdowns here. If you have money left and you just want to make sure you don't lose the Puka edge, then you could pop $9,000 for Puka. I don't have him at the top of my list just because the salary, but anytime Puka could have that game. So if you want to take the chance he doesn't, play the other players. But if you got salary left, how many players could put up a 40-point game? Puka and not many else. So tight end salary relief, Tyler Higbee, 3,200. Both he and Parkinson were pretty much equally involved. Parkinson caught the touchdown. Higbee had a long play down the middle of the field. They're both involved. Either could score. So that's a nice little punt. Otherwise, Colston Loveland, 5,500. I don't know that I'd use Luther Burden, but if you want some Bears exposure, catch and run, it could be a good game for him as well. All right, everybody. Hopefully we have at least 2 or 3 competitive games. 4 would be beautiful. Wild card weekend was one of the best we saw. We hope we get more of that. Be back next Wednesday breaking down the 2 games for the following week. Be on Sunday evening after the last game. After that Bears game, I'll go on and we'll break down all 4 playoff games, so you won't want to miss the instant reaction show. Everybody, thanks for hanging with me. Good luck in your betting endeavors or watching football, and we'll see you next time.